And we're live
Cool.
on the YouTube.
Excellent.
Hey guys,
Hi, everyone. Happy Monday.
happy post-Thanksgiving Monday, Rebels. Nice
Happy
to see you guys there.
Cyber Monday.
Oh, don't remind me.
Because the discounts haven't been running since the day after Halloween.
Oh, literally.
I got overload where I was trying to shop, and when you just have too much and you don't actually like achieve anything, I really felt like I did a lot of browsing and not a lot of like adding to cart. So it was very that. So I got zero Christmas shopping done, unfortunately.
Yeah, Christmas is going to be tough this year because I'm just getting settled in at the new job and
Mhm.
getting the bills knocked out that I need to pay before I can buy anything else, and it's not
Yeah,
working.
no, I totally hear that. Hi,
My family
Spencer.
understands. Hi,
Yeah.
Spencer.
I will say my sister, as everyone is joining, happy post-Thanksgiving, happy almost Christmas/holiday season. I will say my sister is a few years younger than me, and we were visiting her for Thanksgiving we did our Thanksgiving on Saturday, as I was telling you earlier, which I love. I highly recommend to anyone who's in the chat. Like, do your holiday not on the holiday day if you can. They're local enough that we drove over on Saturday and we had like a whole day together, which was
Yeah.
great. But we also decided to not do Christmas gifts because we have two kids in the mix now. She has a 5-year-old and an almost 1-year-old. And I was like, well, we want to buy them
Oh,
gifts,
yeah.
but like, I don't need anything. You don't want anything. And mom and dad were like, well, how about we just go to a nice dinner, the 8 of us? And I was like, how about the 6 of us? And we leave the kids. And we do that, and there's none of this like insane wrapping gifts, shopping for gifts, like making everyone crazy. Like, I don't need it. I don't need the aggravation,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just gotta be stress-free. Holidays are already enough put on people. You just want to
Yeah.
relax and enjoy your family, enjoy your company, enjoy your friends.
Right. And look, Thanksgiving just happened and Christmas is less than a month away. So who's stressed? Like, already, like I'm already there. Well, all right,
Yeah.
who's in the Jeff is here, but Jeff is producing for us again. He's the
Hey.
voice behind the camera.
The man
We
behind Andor.
Yes.
Literally.
By the way, I love this graphic. Like, you
Oh,
guys
I
did such a
know.
killer job with this graphic.
So good.
Try to
Um,
combine Andor and Rebels a little bit with the shots of
mhm.
the different characters, and that's a great. I mean, the promos for Andor were amazing already. So just that shot of
Yeah,
this kid.
he looks so good. Hi, Jen and Sarah and Spencer. Oh boy, I hope everyone had a great holiday long break. I know I was rejuvenated until I spent the day at work, and then I came home tired. I was like, got it. I remember it's work. It's still work. It's Star Wars, but it's still work. But it was a nice long weekend. Did you have a good weekend too, Ashley?
I did. It was good to see my family. I worked a few shifts, so that was good. Um, did some
At the
extras.
Newberry.
Yes. So I used to work there way before, and now I'm back, and it's weird because I'm seasonal help, so it's like
Mhm.
a lot less. I don't know, there's a lot more pressure because I want them to hire me again after the holidays, but I also want to like, we're in a different location. It's more traffic, it's more eyeballs, it's more kids in the store like spilling stuff everywhere. So it was
Mm,
just a very stressful weekend. But yeah, I made it through. Got to watch the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special.
that was great.
Highly
Yes.
recommend if you guys haven't seen it yet. So much heart, so much good music. Six
Fun,
Degrees
just
Fun,
to
fun.
Mickens.
fun
Oh my
times
Mickens.
on
God, yeah.
Hollywood Boulevard.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that's right. They did go to Hollywood Boulevard. That's where that whole
yeah.
scene with
There's a
them coming
lot of
over.
legit Hollywood locations right
Yeah,
there on and
Yeah.
off the boulevard.
the star map cracked me up.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
John Cena and
classic.
Margot Robbie are now MCU canon, you guys. So
Mhm. And
it's
Mark Paul
official.
Gosselaar, which I
Yeah.
didn't recognize at first because they used an old timey picture of him like from his Zach Morris days, and I was like,
Yeah, which
what?
was weird, but
Yeah.
okay.
When he
Hey
was famous.
Sherry and Steven, thanks for joining us.
Hi.
I will say, like, these Marvel special presentations, like whoever came up with the idea of like special presentation,
Right.
deserves a raise because it's a
Yeah.
great way to throw in these like little things that like wouldn't make sense for a movie. Like even Werewolf by Night, I was like, oh, that would have been
Yeah,
a
like
great
one-shot
movie. But
comics
like
for like the nerds in us.
that's
Yeah,
exactly what
totally.
it is. It's a one shot. Like,
I
can
love
we
it.
get 45-minute character study on this particular person? Which I actually kind of thought that's what Marvel Legends was going to be. Remember when they started doing those little like 5-minute, like, here's a reminder as to who Wanda is before
Yeah, that's
WandaVision
exactly what I
started.
thought was going to happen too.
Yeah, I was like, oh, we're going to get a 45-minute thing. It's going to have a clip show. They're going to show us the old comics. We're going to get a whole deep dive. And then it was some 3-minute EPK. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, it was really disappointing. But then these special presentations, I feel like are the right balance of like, I wouldn't want to go to the theater for that, but I can sit back and relax and watch it at home. It's almost like added value they're just giving to the fans.
And my friend James was an extra in it. He was one of the aliens that had
Oh
like
yeah, I saw your
the gold,
post.
the gold tinsel around his red vest.
That's killer.
So he was, he lives in Atlanta and he was part of it. So they kind of put him in a few scenes. The scene where they take the door off the package and they hand it to a guy, that's James that they handed it to. So, and he's right behind Gamora when they're all walking in. So.
Oh, I love that.
Not Gamora, Nebula.
Nebula, yeah,
sorry.
I knew who you meant. Oh my god, her dancing, Nebula. I don't even know how to do it. It was just so stiff and angry. She's the best. I love her. I love Karen Gillan she's one of my favorite companions from Doctor Who. Oh, Spencer, thank you. Yeah, we should start off with this. It is officially 6 months of Star Wars Rebels Revisited this episode.
It is, and we're so glad you guys are here with us.
I can't believe less than that. Definitely.
I know.
Right.
It also seems like more than that. Like we've been doing this forever, but not in like a bad way.
I was having that exact conversation with someone about how time just doesn't make sense because, like, I feel like we did talk about this 1,000 years ago, and then at the same time, it just started, right? Like, there's a cognitive dissonance there. But thank you for everyone for keeping us on air.
Yeah, thank you.
The ratings are great from what I heard. So
they like us. They'll keep us.
Yeah. We're a nice little kickoff to the week because it's like, let's watch some silly TV, let's talk, let's chat, and then there's like there's a pretty comprehensive slate of programming now, right? Like we're the Monday show. There's a Tuesday happy hour. Thursday is the proper watch along, which I think is like the signature show of the network. And then on Sundays they alternate between Unifying Force and the Jedi Archives, which is the comic review or the book review. So there's a little bit of something for everyone. I don't know why Wednesdays are off, but I think that's usually when content drops from Disney Plus. I think that was the
everybody's got to catch up,
clear the decks.
Watch, yeah.
Wednesday you actually have to watch the main show. We are wraparound content, so
we throw in the odd duck like a special presentation, not unlike the holiday special that you're just talking about. With our holiday special,
like what you guys did on Wednesday.
Tuesday. It was during the happy hour time, but it was a live show that we broadcast to the channel, the Facebook page and the YouTube channel, and that was a lot of fun. Got to show off some things that I experienced in Batu West, and the Skywalkers were showing off what they did in Batu East, and
that's awesome.
It was great.
I was able to tune in for a little while, and I didn't finish, so I have to go back and finish the rest of it. I didn't realize that the Skywalking Through Neverland team, that's the guy who wrote the book This Day in Star Wars. I had no idea it was the same guy.
Yeah, they were at our at the Boonta Eve Cantina in May of this year, and they were selling like hotcakes the first volume, because it's half a year.
Yes. And
then they just dropped the second volume, which is the latter half of the year from July through December, I believe. And so they were there. Richard was the host of at Alderaan Idol.
Oh my God, that's right.
He was not the host. He was the host, and Kevin was the MC. That's what it was.
Yes.
Nice.
So they were both up in the front.
Familiar. And I know who he is, kind of, right? But when you know people from Twitter, you don't always remember what they look like.
See them all the time, but you don't really know them.
That, and like you forget people's multiple credits, right? Like someone for one thing. I was like, oh right, they have that podcast. I forgot he was also the author of that book. So I'm like, that's
a massive Star Wars knowledge.
Yeah, I'm blown away. Look, the first half has to be the harder half too, because that would include like May the 4th and all the days in May, right? Which is like Star Wars time. Like you could do a whole book just on May. Never mind like the surrounding months. So very cool. All right, we have to have him on as a guest at some point. I'd love to get his take on Rebels.
Yeah, him and his wife Sarah are great. They have a lot of knowledge and do some good stuff.
So we also have to give a shout out to our the new VCN racer jersey that is going to be available soon
Well, it is available now. Currently,
Oh, it's available now.
Oh, it's on
the
sale
post. I
already.
believe the post is featured or pinned at the top of the Facebook page.
Yeah.
And it has all the ordering information. Has a size chart. Has the amazing design. That design is
Seriously,
crazy.
it's
very
so
cool.
fun. Like,
It looks, the
where else
graphic
would you
alone
see
just
a
looks cool.
Rancor?
I drape the graphic over my shoulders and wear that around without, with the background and everything that shows off the print without even worrying about it being a shirt because it looks so cool.
Yeah, so
But
awesome.
those racers are great. They fit, if you get the sized right, they fit amazing. And they are like serious eye catchers. You will get tons of compliments and questions when you're wearing any of our racers. And it's a must have. People
It's
always
like
regret
the
not
best
getting them
band
when they start
t-shirt.
to drop. Yeah. It's the
That's the best way I can liken it. It's the band t-shirt. If you
right.
miss
Well,
out,
it's
you're
the
like,
hot band
oh
shirt
man.
that sells out at the concert.
Exactly. There you
And
go.
you had to get it when it was available, otherwise you're SOL.
Yeah.
And yeah, so once they drop and people get them in their hands and start posting photos, there's going to be a huge second wave of people saying, "Oh, I would have got one." It's like, well, you need to see the post right now. Go
So
look at it.
start now and
Do it now. Get it in before the deadline.
And even if you're not going to Celebration London,
Yeah, I'm not going to London.
If for some reason you can't go, just get it to Rock. I mean, it's just the coolest design. You can see it. It's got a Rancor climbing Big Ben, just like
that's amazing.
Boba Fett, and God Save the Queen with Padme and the Sex Pistols style logo on the front. Like, so cool. Like, come on, you guys, you can't miss this
design. That was Joanna and her crew.
Yes,
she was the art director at the very least.
She was wearing one of the jerseys when we saw her in Rhode Island, and I forget which one it was.
I had a racer on. I
think
you might have had the Punch It Chewy racer, which has it's blue and red with the Millennium.
Yes, she had the blue one.
Yeah, that one.
That's a great one. I wear that one a lot.
I love that one. That's what I saw a lot of you guys in at Celebration this year. Yeah. And I was like,
that was that one and the Bunta one were the newest ones. So that one had come out prior, and the Bunta one came out. Well, basically it was for Bunta Eve, the day before Celebration. And
Bunta 4.
Yes.
Yeah, Bunta 4 is coming up in April 6th. It's got amazing lineup. If you're gonna be in London, you really need to hit that show.
I'll be living vicariously through you guys.
Yeah, I'm not going to be in London, but I will have the London racer. And
I was going to ask, like, Jeff, you're not going to Celebration.
No, I have too little lead time for my tastes. And I mean, if it was in America, that would be a different story, most likely. I mean, in the continental United States, I don't want to. Right. Well, actually, even if it was in Alaska or Hawaii, I'd likely go. But the short lead time and the overseas thing is a little bit of a problem for me when it comes to setting that up. So that's my main issue.
You have a long travel too, like the West Coast to UK,
going all the way across and then all the way across the pond. But there will be a pretty good showing of virtual Cantina folk.
Yeah, they'll all be there.
Handling Bunta 4 and at the con, doing all kinds of different things.
Yeah, we're knee deep in planning for the con. It is already, I feel like, yes, it's 5 months away or whatever it is. It's less than that now. I'm going to have a heart attack. It's like so soon. So
wow.
It's like
when you put it like that.
5.5 months.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk less stressful things. But what everyone tuned in to hear, the recap on Andor and the whole season and all of its connections to Rebels. We really wanted to, now that the show is over, and I know Thursday or last Wednesday, because of Thanksgiving, you guys did the final episode as a watch along. We were just going to hit some of the high notes as to like the way Andor connects into Rebels and then what that might set up for season 2, which I think this could be a fun discussion. So everyone in the comments, like, I'm sure if you watched Andor, you might have caught a lot of this stuff. This isn't going to be like an Easter eggy discussion. It'll be more about the thematics and like the main through lines. But it's going to be very free form discussion. And if you have anything you want us to cover in depth, like throw it into the comments and we'll jump on it. I think the biggest thing that obviously connects to Rebels is everything that goes on with Mon Mothma. Her story overlaps with the crew of the Ghost as well as it does with Andor, even though he doesn't meet her. Like Andor and Mon Mothma do not meet in season 1, which is crazy. That was something that Kat had talked about, and I keep referencing that. I thought they were going to meet. That was one of my predictions, that they were going to meet in the finale, and they didn't. So I guess they're saving it for season 2. Andor does encounter Luthen at the very end and go off with him. And it seems like maybe they'll go to Yavin. I would assume that's the next stop on this train. But with that, like, he didn't meet Mon Mothma. We did spend a lot of time with Mon Mothma though in this show, and oh my god, is she like the new breakout star of all of Star Wars? Like, I've always been obsessed with this character and I love her, but like, man, did we get a lot more depth to the, what it's like day to day being a senator, living in this environment, being a double agent basically, and making a lot of compromises,
giving out info when she has to, but not enough to
Oh yeah, I agree, David. Like
heavy.
That last bit, like, man, like, you totally just sold out your own husband.
Okay. Her setting up the husband in the car with the gambling, brilliant.
Right.
Brilliant. Love it. I loved everything about it. I was like,
because she knows he's lied to her before about it, and she goes, for the greater good. Like, she sees how much Luthen is risking for this, and like, she's in trouble. She truly has no other way to do this.
Yeah.
And
she needs an out and a fall guy.
Yeah.
And he's a douche. And like, does he belong to like rot in an Imperial prison? I don't know. But at the same time, like, maybe we don't know how bad it is, right? He doesn't seem like he's an abusive husband, but we certainly were all thinking like maybe you want to get divorced.
Yeah, like, he's not warm and fuzzy, and the fact that he would probably be on board with his daughter being in an arranged marriage like they were, and when they know how
well it works for him, he's benefited, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't lift a damn finger, and he's got all the benefits, none of the responsibility. He's got like the best side of that arranged marriage. Usually it's the other way around, right? Like, actually that's not true. It's usually that women are subservient, and the man has the position of power. That was the flip, but it turns out that she has the position of power, and yet she still has all the damn work. That's what's so like effed up about it.
This is really good. Steven says, I feel Mon is the before and Luthen is the after. We are seeing Mon go through the sacrifices that Luthen monologued about.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah, that is really true.
And Saw might even be a step ahead. Like, he's already had that, right? Like,
yeah, he's like, oh well, what are we gonna do now?
Yeah, so, man, Luthen. Okay, so I mean, all right, think about like our rebel crew. Like Vanessa, Hera, North Star, True Believer, never wavers, but also, make some compromises. But like nothing to the extent that like Mon Mothma or Saw Gerrera or Luthen had to make, or whatever make. I feel like everyone in the Ghost is a little more sort of true hero, and the sacrifices they make are themselves. Like, someone pointed out in another video that Luthen staying out of the violence and pulling back and sort of running was the opposite of what anyone on the Ghost would do. Like Ezra Kanan,
exactly.
They
would run towards the fire. Yeah.
They're the first responders, and like some of these people are really cowards. Like Saw Gerrera hasn't left his cave, and Luthen let all those men die. Like, it's a very different approach.
Run in. Her cousin ran into the fray.
Yeah. Like,
who's
no
visibility, zero, running into the smoke to see.
Oh yeah. So Vel, I thought was great in the finale, but the girlfriend, I'm obsessed with the girlfriend. And of course I can't remember her name now. Cinta. Oh my god, when she stabs that guy, she didn't just stab, like drag the knife.
She went up with that. It was so crazy.
And just close the door behind her. She like straight up murdered an Imperial and ISB officer.
And then she's like, the blood isn't mine. And I was like, okay.
That was amazing when she was like, are you bleeding? Oh no, don't worry, that blood's not mine. How fucking badass is that? Like, to be like, I'm good. That's someone else's
The
blood.
fact that Vel just calmed down like 10 notches was totally like symbolic of the two of them and what they've probably been through in this rebellion. Exactly. So like, oh, it's not yours. All right, cool, whatever.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they seem to be on a path of like, it's, look, and that's what the thing is, like, when you surrender yourself to the rebellion and those other personal relationships falter, we saw it happen with Kanan and Hera, right? Like Kanan was constantly like, we don't have enough together time with just us. Why are we doing this like military stuff? Like, when is it ever going to end? And Hera's like, what do you mean when it's going to end? When we overthrow the Empire? Like, her goal was like way up here, even though Kanan's was like, I just want to like survive this and get to a point where we can be our little family. And I feel like Belle has that same thought, but Cinta is more like Hera, where she was like, we have a larger purpose here.
Now, knowing what I know and knowing what we've seen in Rebels happen with Kanan after, well, we need to be a family. Like, we, when are we going to do this? Like, and just kind of like, talking Hera off from being so intense and to have a life for once outside of the rebellion, but without being like horrible and like ultimatum-y about it. It was kind of sad because it's like, okay, people could die at any time in this rebellion. Why aren't they being more appreciative of the people that they do have around them? Because you don't know when things can go wrong. And that's why I'm like, oh, it's happening again, as soon as like Cinta told her that. And I'm like, so it was kind of hard to see. But
it's the circle of Star Wars. Like, we end up in the same damn loop, right? From Age of Republic to Age of Rebellion to Age of Resistance. It's the same conflict happening in a loop. And there's probably some like Jedi wisdom about that, right? How like good and evil, yin and yang, like light and dark, like constantly comes in these cycles, right?
This is why attachments are bad. Because you're fighting for other things and you forget to live.
And I always like push back on, so that's another thing, the pushing back on Jedi teachings. Oh my God, the big lesson was try. I was like, you want to flip the table, right? Because like the do or do not, there is no try, right? The big lesson for everyday people who are not Jedi, right, is to try. Like that you do what you can. And it's almost like it's not even like attempt. It's like do what you can. Even if you don't think you're gonna, like, you have to try to escape that prison. You have to like fight these people on Ferrix, right? By the way, a lot of people on Ferrix died, like on both sides, right? So like that wasn't super successful either way, but like you have to try. You have to start moving in that direction. And I just love that like the big takeaway was like literally the opposite of what Yoda was preaching for like from 40 years ago.
Exactly.
Which is amazing.
And I have to say, like Marva's final speech that be projected, oh my God, you guys, just broke my heart. And it was kind of like, okay, I don't want to liken it to Fiona Shaw's other franchise, but I did. Like the part where like it was a deleted scene where she talks to Harry about like, you didn't just lose a mother that night in Godric's Hollow, I lost a sister. Like it just, Fiona Shaw just coming with the cuts.
So good.
Like little paper cuts on my heart here. But yeah, she just really like absolutely nailed it. And the fact that it inspired a rebellion.
Telling everyone to wake up.
Yeah, she's a beloved daughter of Ferrix, and they know how oppressed they are, and they love her so much they'll do anything. So in her memory, and to beat that guy with her memorial
with the brick.
Oh my God. I was like, wow, this is just whole other level here.
The social media explosion afterwards, where it was like, when I die, like, cremate me into a brick and beat a fascist for me.
Yes. Oh my God, that's great.
Right? Like that's my new dream. Meanwhile, how many people are going to be running around in celebration with like fake bricks now? That's going to be a thing.
Running up to Imperials and Stormtroopers.
Oh God, it's going to be a
Please
whole
don't
thing.
hit anybody. We do not condone that.
Yeah, make it look like you hit them. But this is going to be as bad as On Your Left with like from Captain America.
On program, it's going to be everywhere.
On program. Are you part of it? Yeah, there were a couple.
Nobody's listening.
Climb, and nobody's listening. Yeah, those will be the big ones.
Are you part of it, especially if somebody's running by you?
Yeah.
And why are you running?
Climb's going to be an easy one to just scream at people too. Like it's going to be a thing. And fine. I would love for Andor to infect and grow slowly. Like, because now that it's over, I can definitively say it's my favorite individual season of any Disney Plus show, other than Mando season 1. And it's just because like that one, like Mando season 1 was just something so different and like unexpected, and I actually didn't think I was gonna like it, and then I loved it. This I was like eagerly anticipating and like loved it more than I expected it to, but like this is right up there, and I think it beats everything else that happened in the past like year or so.
Agreed.
It's been,
even though I love Kenobi.
Agreed. And that's and I think there's actually a little bit of something out there for everyone. I do think at Celebration this is going to become like a bigger force
Oh yeah,
in the
and
fandom
they
for
just
sure.
started filming season 2, so they're doing pre-production on that right now.
Yeah,
So it's
planning.
it's coming, but it's like ugh, we still have to wait 2 years.
Mm.
I'm
But
looking at
hey, at a Celebration London, we'll probably get like a little teaser, some footage. It'll be
yeah, they got to give us
exciting.
something. I'm looking at Steven's comments about like the strong women, and that definitely continues, right? Like I feel like Rebels was very strong women focused without having to like, put like Hera and Sabine were such an integral part of the ship. You
Oh
never
yeah.
even thought about like, oh, we're putting the women and we're giving the women an episode. Like it was never that. It was never like check the box and like, it
And
was
I
there.
feel like the same is going on in Andor. Like
Right.
there's no checking the boxes. Like these women are just badasses because they have
Yeah,
to
they just
be.
do it. Yeah.
It's survival, and that's cool. It's representation without beating you over the head with representation,
And
like
it's just done well,
yeah.
like people I think now love Mon Mothma, and maybe they'll go back and watch some of her Rebels episodes, which we did in the build up because we knew, and even the Clone Wars stuff. So thoughts on
Okay,
Canto
go ahead.
Bite? Hey, look,
I went like this. I was like
so
so.
that's an Easter egg done well, right? So I think
Yeah.
that okay, I'm gonna say something controversial. I'm gonna repeat something controversial. Someone
Okay.
said that Andor was so good that it's gonna be hard for them to go back to the John Favreau action figure hour. And I felt like that's unfair. Like I don't think that Boba Fett or Obi-Wan or Mando or like Ahsoka is like the John Favreau action figure hour. Like I think that that's they were really trying to elevate Andor by stepping on something else, and I don't play that. Like if we're gonna do a ranking, we're gonna talk about what works and what doesn't work. Like those are different shows. Like Mando's
yeah, totally different
fun.
shows.
Like Ahsoka, we know that it's coming off of like a constant build, right?
Yes.
But like someone was saying that like there really aren't that many Easter eggs in Andor, and I would argue that like some of the best Easter eggs are in Andor because it's little dialogue like that like if you get it, you get it, and if you don't miss anything. Like an Easter egg means you can miss it and not miss any of the major shit happening in the show.
And
like you
all
go,
the little
yeah.
tchotchkes in Luthen's shop, like
you
hello,
don't need to know what
that
any
is
of
like
it is.
no.
You don't need to know. It's just
You
it's
just know it's
background
cool
Star Wars stuff. Yeah, it's
really
like, oh, look
cool.
at that armor.
Like Gerard, what's his name? Dryden Voss from Solo. He had a really cool display of really cool stuff. You don't have to know everything. You just
it doesn't
might
matter
recognize
what's in
some
there.
stuff, which is fun, but it's not integral to the plot.
Unless it became a major plot point where it's like there's something in that store that was going to be taken by someone and it was going to lead to something. Like you can imagine finding that brick piece of like the mother, father, daughter, or sorry, it's the father, daughter, son from the Mortis trio.
Mortis,
right?
yeah.
Like if someone picked that up and was like, oh, I know what this is, and I'm gonna go get it, like then it's not even an Easter egg. It's like it's a MacGuffin in the show. But like otherwise, it's just some brick carving of something. Like it doesn't really matter what it is. The Canto Bite I actually think is a great example of that, right?
Yeah.
Like she's saying go gamble off world. It doesn't matter that it was like the Canto Bite, but I guess Canto Bite's been around long enough that it's a cesspool and a place for like the really wealthy to go. And that's already true in like year 4 of the Empire, right? Like we're barely, or how many years are we in at this point? Like we're 20 something years into the Empire at this point.
Right.
Like, and Canto Bite is already a thing, so that's kind of cool. But I think they handled Easter eggs the right way. It wasn't blatant. I didn't run into any characters that like were for the sake of, oh, hey, remember that guy. Like when we met Saw Gerrera, it moved the plot along. We spent considerable time with Mon Mothma because she's really important, but they didn't just fly in like a Wedge Antilles for no reason. Right?
Yeah, and I also like that they spent less time focusing on Mon Mothma, the senator, giving speeches, inspiring the rebellion. This was Mon Mothma at her most desperate. This was her trying to scramble to cover her tracks and stay in the rebellion without blowing her cover. Like this is a side of her we haven't seen.
No,
like
we've
how
only
she got
seen
involved.
her like strong and in charge.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, so I think her story really, like what they gave us in Andor, and you wouldn't need to know this. So I talk about required reading and stuff like that, like required viewing, right? You don't need to have watched Rebels, but if you know from Rebels, the speech, the impetus that like gets her to break with the Empire and leave the Senate, and become the number one most wanted person in the galaxy is because of the Gorman massacre. She's been talking about the Gormans all damn season in Andor, right? It like comes up several times in small ways. It's a cutting off of their trade routes. She's fighting with the husband, and he mentions like, oh, I'm going to invite all these people over, including Sly Moore and whoever else. By the way, that's another one where it's like, oh, if you know who that is, it's like, oh, that lady, I'm scared of her. But like Sly Moore and whoever else, like, and Mon Mothma says, well, why don't you invite some of the Gormans and see what they have to say about those people? Like, she's all in this thing, and we know it's leading to this point where it's like the Gorman massacre is going to be a triggering moment for Mothma. We'll probably see it in live action. We may even get the speech again in the hologram, and it gets played around the galaxy and other people hear it. Like, I could see them giving us like almost like another view of that, almost like how we've seen Order 66 like 25 times. Like, it's from various different angles. Like, I could see that happening.
Yeah, absolutely. But and there's also the fact that Andor became kind of like our ghost crew, just kind of doing what he had to make a paycheck and to survive, but then realizing that he's got nothing left to lose and this is bigger than him. He has to protect people who have come to rely on him, like the prisoners relied on him to help them escape. So it's like the Rebels crew. He's learned that this is way bigger than him. And if he's going to be part of it or if he's going to die, either way, he's got nothing left to lose. So that was, it kind of gave me a little more appreciation to him. And you don't just see the jerk shooting his so-called friend at the beginning of Rogue One. You see a guy who's really like lost everything, literally everything, to the cause.
You're seeing how he's going to get to that point.
Exactly.
Because so he is kind of a scoundrel, a little Han Solo-ish. He's also a little bit naive and a little bit young, a little bit like Ezra. And he does find himself in a place where like he makes like one wrong move and then he's in prison, and then he realizes he needs to go back and take care of other people he's left behind. And, he's sort of learning the same lesson that Ezra did in season 1 of Rebels. It's very that. And a little bit more like Cal Kestis. He actually, if I were going to pick one character to compare him to the most, it's somewhere between Cal and Han, but probably closer to Cal. Even though Andor is not super young in this show, like he's certainly a little bit on the young and naive side, certainly when it comes to like the larger conflict. Like he feels like he's been sheltered from it. They're in the Outer Rim. One of the things that people forget about in the Outer Rim is like, and it was sort of set up in the first couple episodes, like the Empire isn't really there every day. There isn't an outpost. There aren't stormtroopers. We didn't see stormtroopers for the first like 6 episodes or something, right? And people were complaining about that. They're like, it's not Star Warsy enough. And I was like, that's because he lives out in the boondocks. Like he's out in the sticks on this planet that's like sort of outside of the Eye of Mordor, for lack of a better word. Like you're so far from Coruscant, they don't care. They've outsourced all of the government like regulations and whatever else, security and whatever, as long as this planet is producing X number of pieces of whatever widgets they're sending out, no one cares. It's like you do your job and you'll be left alone, which is sort of its own oppression, right? But like they weren't really causing any trouble, so they were being left alone. Lothal was in a similar case, right? If Lothal like didn't fight back and just like let the TIE Defender program happen and whatever else on the planet, like no one, there would have been no reason for like Tarkin to visit, to them to send Inquisitors. Like they would have probably never even like removed people from their homes. They would have just like carried on at like a low level, just, occupation.
Like a well-oiled machine, so to speak.
So, and especially and Lothal had more Imperial presence than on Ferrix. Like there was actually like a governor and there were stormtroopers and there were Imperials. On Ferrix, there was no one. They were like barely part of the Empire. And yet, like they were being exploited just as much. And then when like that one crime happened, like guess what happened? Your local outsourced police force was fully replaced by like an incredibly fascist government. They took over that entire hotel. They kicked out all those people. They killed numerous people, where they talked about hanging the one guy. They tortured everyone else. And it's stuff we saw happen in Rebels, right? They displaced people all over Lothal. They threw people out of their homes, and they tortured people. They tortured Kanan with the torture ball. We just watched that. Like these are all tactics that we've seen throughout like the entirety of Star Wars.
It's true. And we're seeing it in real life. We're seeing it happen to multiple people across multiple planets. Think about all the systems where these prisoners came from, and all those people that are in those prisons with Cassian. And
we met like, one floor of one
for the
boat
stupidest
out of many boats.
infractions.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah,
those are just
trumped up charges. Yeah.
And I really feel like it was just because they wanted the grunt labor. They didn't care if people lived or died. They just wanted what they wanted. And that it literally shows us the answer to the question, how did the Empire get all this stuff built so fast?
Yeah. The prison industrial complex, which
Yes.
to Sarah's point, like it is a lot of real life, not just China. Like we do it here in America too. There's slavery everywhere. It's really embarrassing and
the prison
horrifying.
system.
And
yeah,
it's the military industrial complex. I will say this show is really heavy. Someone was pointing out that like it's an indictment on fascism, which I think is the most obvious thing. It's also an indictment on capitalism. It's an indictment on like toxic masculinity, and specifically Cyril and like the incel types, like a lot of that, which I do want to come to him later because like
we have to talk about him.
By the way, I went back and I rewatched our episode just yesterday so I could remember some of the predictions I had made. I got one thing right. The post-credit scene, you know how I was saying like at the end of the episode?
You did. I was gonna get to that.
Yeah, the bad guys needed a coda, and like I got it in the post-credit scene, so we should come back to that too. But like this show has tackled some really heavy themes that I think were also highly prevalent in Rebels. Like Rebels, just because it was animation, wasn't taken as seriously when they talked about like the way everyday people dealt with their loss of liberty and the oppression that they felt every day. Like they're like, oh, it's a fun kid show. Bless. You know, here, I mean, people are looking at this and they're treating it like some manifesto, like the show itself, which I kind of love. I was like, yes, and now go back and watch Rebels. They did it too.
And when he was listening to the manifesto that, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Starts with an N.
Oh, Nimic. Yeah, something like that.
Listening to his manifesto and getting to hear his voice, it was kind of like a Bible for the rebellion, so to speak.
Yeah.
And just like the mindset of it. And when he tells Cassian that you are like my perfect reader for this, I think it absolutely nailed it. And then also like having what happened to him in the prison and then going into this and getting Nemic's manifesto, it lit a fire on him. It was the spark that lit the fire. So
yeah, we get a lot of that sort of visualization, a lot of fire, a lot of sparks of rebellion. By the way, just want to shout out Brasso real quick. The guy who actually that's the guy's name who hits the Imperial with the brick with Marva. He was a hero in that episode.
I'm so glad he lived.
Really fantastic.
I'm so glad he lived.
Yeah, I was worried that he wasn't going to make it.
And getting Bix out. Poor Bix. Like she was delusional, but she's like, oh, I heard Marva and like, or I saw Marva, and it's just like
yeah, it was rough. I do want to talk about Cyril.
Yes, you do.
My man, he survived, which I remember I said I was going to predict that he dies, and that Deirdre was going to win. So here's an interesting thing. Deirdre got her ass kicked, and I think like I predicted there'd be chaos on Ferrix and there'd be a big whatever, but I didn't think she'd be blamed for it. I now think she's going to be blamed for it, and she's going to have to say that like Cyril saved her life, and maybe that's how he's going to get into the ISB as like that kind of thing. But
so
like,
I called that he would be in the ISB, so it could still happen, and I think
certainly possible. Will she get in trouble though? Because this went terribly, but like, was it really her fault? It was like that other guy who like messed it up. Like, so could he be the guy who threw the cape on B2 Emo? Like, would he be the one who gets charged with like the escalation on this? I don't know, but because in some ways, like Deirdre was right. Like everything was happening at Ferrix. Like everyone was there. Like Axis was there. Like
she told them, "Do not attack," and they just completely did not listen to her.
Yeah,
like she made it so just let them have their funeral. We'll draw him out. We'll get him. That would be it. There would need to be no bloodshed. There need to be no chaos. There need to be no rioting. And that guy just did not give a damn about anything. He wanted to destroy those people. Yeah. So
Sarah, I suspect that she may get in trouble for it. Like I agree with you. I'm nervous, especially being like the one lady at that table. They're gonna be like, oh, little girl, you're demoted or removed from action or whatever.
They have a habit of doing that. They did that with Cyril. Like he knew there was something bigger going on.
They did it to Minister Tua. They killed her. So Minister Tua, who I never liked, but like, did she deserve to die? I mean, she probably does. We could have a whole conversation about that too.
I think she betrayed her people, so she kind of did deserve to die. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but
I agree.
when you sell your people out who are suffering and they're literally killing your planet for its resources, and you're just like, oh crap, I'm in over my head, somebody save me. Like, no, you're a coward. You deserve to go.
She only felt remorse once she was up against the wall. So
exactly, when they were going to kill her.
Which Deirdre, I think, was feeling a similar way, right? She got her ass beat. When she hit the ground, I was like, oh my God, they can't kill her. She's so good. Like, I just love her as a character. Denise Go is so good in this role.
Yeah.
And like, man, I want like hours and hours more footage of her, right? So I was like, well, please don't kill her. That would also be like terrible, right? Like if we like fall in love with this character all season, because I'm looking at the IMDb, there are only a few people who are in all 10 episodes. So Diego Luna, who plays Cassian, obviously he's in every episode. And then the other ones are Cyril and Deirdre. No, Deirdre's in 9 of the 10. Cyril, Luthen, and Mon Mothma are claimed to be in 10 episodes, but we know Mon Mothma wasn't. So maybe it's that like maybe it's that just like in the first season or the second season. Maybe the grand total they're going to be in at 10. But according to IMDb right now, like they're listed at the top. That doesn't make sense because we know that Mon Mothma wasn't in. So something's off on IMDb. But like Cyril was in almost every episode.
Yeah, he was.
It's kind of a season 2, episode 1 listed. Yeah. Because that's the only reason I could think of a 10th episode, because she was in 9 this season.
Yeah.
Anyways, regardless.
And I kind of had the don't kill the dog moment with B2 Emo. Like, oh no,
oh my God, when that guy flipped B2, I could have, oh my God, in real life,
I'm glad he didn't like destroy him and smash him to smithereens. But when they like dragged him on the cape out of there and got him on the ship, like, oh, thank God. It was one of those, I felt like I was watching Equilibrium and the Christian Bale's character finds the puppies in the trunk. Don't shoot the dogs, but the dogs are fine. So
I gotta say, the chaos on Ferrix was really well done. Like it got me like I was cheering at the TV. I thought it was so well done. The speech from Marva, the emotional build up, the slow build to the funeral, the tension as Cassian is trying to save Bix, Denise Go just like on the lookout with all the other Imperials, the way it then escalates with him throwing the cape and flipping the droid, and then the brick. And then all of a sudden, like once they start shooting, I've never seen like blaster blasts that seemed that visceral, where it just like hit these people and they were instantly dead, hit the ground. But I felt like I felt it. I was like, oh man, this is brutal.
Some of those were pretty hard. Yeah.
Like if you're talking about like what show like police force being too heavy, and like this is what happens to civilians when they go up against authority, like this is a good example of that. Like I felt that like it very like almost too real,
Yeah.
Also a select group of stormtroopers that have actual aim.
So we saw some Death Troopers, which I will say were better on screen here than they were in Rebels. Because I will say, and one of the things in Rebels is that the Death Troopers were very out of place. Like the Rebels always win in Rebels, and like the Death Troopers shouldn't lose. So when they were in Rogue One, they were really menacing and threatening, and like I thought they were killer. And then in Rebels, they were like kind of okay. They were like not great actually. And then here in Andor, I thought the Death Troopers were used very sparingly. They were really more escorts for the ISB, and they sort of held their own. Caspian did kill one, which I thought was great. Let's get one on the list. Like
finally,
cool.
They were a great juxtaposition to Deidre's little white character with these giant black, troopers next to her.
Oh yeah,
and I like the espionage where like Cinta saw Deidre get off. Yeah, and even with the disguises, she knew what was going on, and she was still like, okay, what are they up to? Why are they hiding? What's going on?
Yeah, she knew. Yeah, she was definitely in the know.
One thing about Cinta's mentioning of that is it almost felt like she was just noticing her, where Deidre had been there for a while. She, had before that day or that incident, right? Hadn't they?
Yeah.
With the thing with Bix and with the other guy, that had gone down over some time. So the fact that it's almost like she acted like she hadn't seen her until then. But
I wonder if she was not out on the street.
It could be.
Yeah,
because Cinta
it just seemed off to me a little bit.
There was another Imperial who Cinta pointed like immediately, as a spy who was like working, like sort of just working the General Ferrix zone. And I didn't realize he was a spy until like the second episode he was spying. And I can't remember which guy it is now because there's too many people. Was it Corv?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep, that's him. I'm looking at the IMDb. Yep. So Corv was secretly an Imperial spy, and we didn't realize that like in the first time we see him on Ferrix. But then we cut to a scene of him in like the ISB headquarters with the rest of the crew. But Cinta figured that out, so she was watching him, and then all of a sudden, like Deirdre's there. So I love those little,
interwoven arcs.
Spencer's so funny. So no, I think that Deirdre.
I do not want to think about that. Okay.
I think that I talked about this last week, that Deirdre would know how to weaponize this man, and I think even though he saved her life, she will still manipulate him.
Like she's totally repulsed by this guy.
Yeah,
but she needs him because he would be dead if she would be dead if he wasn't there. So it's so
she will like play along,
you gross
as
me
long
out,
as it benefits her.
But we need to figure out how I'm going to use this guy.
Yeah, gross. First of all, that man never has or will have sex. Let's just go on record and saying that character, by the way. I'm sure that Kyle Solar in real life is a wonderful person. Cyril, on the other hand, is terrible. And like, I'm excited to see her use him and weaponize him and see how badly that works for all of them.
And we also didn't get to see Cyril kill his mother. He stole from her, but he didn't kill her.
Yeah, those ramifications are coming. Oh, here's a little thing. So his friend that he went to Ferrix with. So the guy who like messed up the mission with him in episode 3. They go to Ferrix. The one who looks like James Corden. I'm blanking on his name. The fermenting guy, that guy.
Fermenting.
Yes, fermenting. I love that. He was there with Cyril listening to the hologram. And I think he was moved by the hologram and actually either agrees or realizes what he was doing was wrong. And maybe he'll even join the rebellion, because at the very end, he was just sitting on a wall drinking. But if you watch his facial expressions, and I watched this episode 3 times, if you watch him, he's looking at Cyril to be like, are you reacting to this? Are you reacting to this? Like, and Cyril is just laser focused on Deirdre and nothing else. Like the rest of the world has melted away. Like, whereas this man is like listening to the words and he's like, are we doing the right thing? Like, I think remember how we talked about some people might turn to the rebellion, and you had a short list and I had a few people that were candidates. It turns out it might be that guy.
So, like all the people we picked, it's like I know, the one that wasn't even anywhere.
Guy. Yeah, Mr. Fermenting himself, I think, might have a chance.
I thought he would be dead. I thought he would be like dying in prison or whatever camp he was sent to.
Yeah.
So it was really strange to see him be a part of this. It's like, okay, everybody went back to Ferrix for some reason.
Yeah.
Instead of Jakku, everybody's going back to Ferrix.
Why does everyone want to go back to Ferrix? Well, I mean, we predicted that it was all going to end there, right? Like, the one thing too is that like news of what happened on Ferrix won't get out, right? This is a backwater planet in the deep outer rim, which, by the way, is Tarkin territory. He's the governor of the outer rim. He'll never let that news get out. And if anything, it'll be some local skirmish. Like, this is what happens in our world, right? Like, we don't know what's going on in a different country. We don't know what's going on in the zip code next door, never mind what's going on in some country across the globe. It would be like if there was an uprising in Bosnia right now. We would never know. Like, it's the kind of thing, it would just be like swept under the rug, like, because it's not on the local news. Like, that's the same sort of idea. So whatever's happening somewhere else, like, it's just the news isn't going to get out there. So there's no rebellion yet. So this like spark of rebellion didn't really land like for the rest of the general population of the galaxy. They're never going to know that this was like an uprising.
Yeah, they'll squash this quick. They'll wipe everybody out, like nuke it from orbit if they had to. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they would blow up the planet if they absolutely had to, and we've seen them do it, right? So, so that brings us to the big reveal, right? Like, so, by the way, if you're on this Zoom, I'm assuming we don't need to say spoiler alert, but like the post-credit scene, if you didn't see it, it was all over Twitter and everywhere else immediately after, is the building of the Death Star. We find out that the piece that Cassian and everyone else was making in the prison, that little spider-looking thing, we were all correct. And that it was going to be, I think all of us said like, oh, it's probably a piece of the Death Star. Congratulations to all of us. We won trivia.
It was
turns out
literally
that-
the dish
yeah,
that was
like
going
they're
into the Death
building
Star.
like these tiny pieces, and then they just kept zooming out, and it gave you this great scope and scale. I've never actually seen the scope of the Death Star done so well before, where we know exactly how big that piece is, because it took like 7 men, like. So we know how big that piece is, right? It was probably like 12 feet long, like, you know, circular, like the circumference is probably 12 feet, right? And then
Yeah.
how many of those are being placed into the dish? Someone's doing that math. Someone who's not me on a different YouTube channel is figuring out the scope and scale of the Death Star. But did you see how like it lined up, like the circles here? This is the Death Star, right? And then like the pieces are all being built up here. Someone said it looked like an hourglass, like we're almost in like countdown mode. I was like, oh my God, like this is what we're headed toward. And I think it's the thing that if you are a general market fan and you just see that picture on Twitter and it's like, oh shit, there's a TV show on right now that's all about like building the Death Star or the lead up to that, like that's kind of amazing. So I thought that was very well done. That's exactly the coda we needed. We didn't need to see Tarkin. Right. We didn't need to see Krennic. We just needed to see the war machine, because it's droids, like literally implanting these things that Cassian was building and where it was being, what it was being used for.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, less is more with this, because you have such a massive reveal when you're watching Rogue One and you see those tiny little ships like dragging that giant satellite dish into its position on the Death Star, and that's another brilliant use of scale and scope too.
Oh yeah,
like these tiny little like ships that are normally like massive, dragging this disc into where it belongs, and it's just crazy.
Also gives you a time reference of how long it's taking for them to put this thing together.
Absolutely.
If they're going from that point where they have a lot of elements already built, just, you know, being assembled separately and going to be, you know, combined later and then added to the Death Star like we saw in Rogue One, you know, it's going to take a while, obviously, based on the time frame we've already been established with the show. Yeah. So it seemed like they might be able to do it faster to me, but I'm not a Death Star builder.
Well, I
can't even build it in Legos.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, like we see it around us, right? Where like a structure goes up and it feels like the bones take a year and then everything else takes a month, right? Because you don't see them install plumbing and, you know, all the like electrician shit, like all the things that are sort of out of sight, out of mind. But like that dish, I think actually, because it's the weaponization point, also probably takes a lot longer. But we don't know what the interior looks like either. So Stephen just said something about scaffolding. Like, yeah, at the end of episode 3, they had the bones, but then you have to like fill everything in there. And if we know the scope and scale of what it would take to build like a city, however many times over.
Oh yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So it's been in you know, manufacturing for like 30 years now or whatever it is, but like it looks complete from the outside. We don't know what it looks like inside. And the dish is still being finished, but that's also the most important part, and the weaponization part. Like I feel like that's always like
most
the hardest
precision part, element. It's like it reminded me a little bit of like clockwork, like those pieces and the way they're going to be combined, kind of like old fashioned, you know, like a pocket watch or something, or
exactly
those sort of gears and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And by the way, they're still figuring out how to weaponize.
It's like the countdown.
Kyber. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. So it goes back to that same idea, like from the, you know, the hourglass, that it's all time and it's all ticking away.
Do you think they got the idea from Luthen?
No, I think that they've been working on this forever, and they've been trying to. Because like at the same time, like we've seen it on in Rebels, the weaponization of Kyber is across multiple episodes. So the Empire's been working on that. I just think that Luthen figured it out because he's really smart, like, or he stole it from someone else. Like, you never know, because that shuttle is like a weird looking shuttle. I don't even know how to describe it. It's not an Empire ship. It's not a obviously Rebel Alliance ship.
It looks like it shouldn't be able to do the things that it does.
Which is what a great metaphor, right?
Underestimated for sure.
Yeah.
And the Cantwell class ship, that was such a cool little tribute to Colin Cantwell.
Yeah, that was really neat.
It was really cool to see.
Yeah. Dave with his OSHA. Yeah. And it's a world of OSHA violations in Star Wars, that's for sure. But yeah, the Death Star build I thought was the right way to end this episode. I also think, like, just in general, the pacing of this episode was perfect. The build up, the funeral was amazing. The way that all the
Yeah.
characters interacted, but also didn't interact with each other. Like, it's not like everyone came. It wasn't one of those explosion of Easter eggs that everyone must meet and everyone must see each other. Like, plenty of people were there that didn't. People have been looking for each other that didn't find each other in the same zip code, right? Even though they're in a galaxy of like billions and billions of people and planets, right?
Yeah.
Like Axis, Luthen is there. So is Deirdre. They are feet away from each other. Cyril's
Mhm.
been watching her from across the way. Cassian Andor is secretly there, but not one person saw him. You know, like all of these people intersected and they all just missed each other. It's
That
kind
one
of
guy saw
amazing.
him,
Yeah.
or thought he saw him,
Yeah.
but thankfully he made it out in time. But
And now, what does this mean for like going into season 2, right? Like, it's the
yeah,
kind of thing where like this major event just happened that obviously the Empire will squash with their propaganda network, and you'll never know about it. But I think that Mon Mothma will find out about it. Certainly, Luthen will have to like tell her, or will the meeting of Mon Mothma and Cassian Andor be like the start of season 2, and they'll have to talk about Ferrix and whatever happened there. I actually think
yeah,
the Imperial government will have to like crack down on Ferrix fully. Like, you can imagine them sending in a fleet and imprisoning the whole city, the whole town, the whole planet, right? Like,
yeah,
you can imagine them also like having another mining accident and like blowing up the whole planet, like just one at a time. I mean, we saw them sink Camino with star destroyers. They didn't need a Death Star. They just did it with their ships. Like,
yeah.
they could do that. There's any number of things that I think the Empire will do, but I think they're going to hit it hard, and I think that's going to harden Andor as well, because he's going to lose more people.
Exactly. And I feel like he got the most important people closest to him off planet.
Mhm.
And it's funny how in like the first episode, all these people were kind of annoyed by Cassian, like, oh, he's come to borrow money from us again, like kind of deal. And now it's like, oh my God, Cassian, we're so sorry about your mom. I'm saving
Yeah,
your life. I'm gonna get you off planet. And
yeah, a lot
yeah,
changed.
like right down to the junkyard guy who was just like fed up with him in the first episode, and then all of a sudden he's out here saving his life and sacrificing it so everybody gets off and off planet and it's okay. Um, but do you think that Cassian made the right call going to instead of getting off planet with Bix and E and everybody else?
Yes, I think that he knows he's a wanted man, and wherever he is, he's the target. If he stays with Luthen, that's better than putting his friends in danger. As much as he'd want to stay with the people he's close with, he would just be endangering them. There's no
Right.
way like all of them could like, and by the way, they all are going to end up, they don't have fake identities like he does. So they're going to end up somewhere where they're going to have to say they're from Ferrix, and then they're going to be arrested on the spot. Like, I see that coming. Like, I
Yeah.
really do think there's going to be like a galaxy-wide directive where it's like, if your chain code says that you're from Ferrix, you're immediately arrested, because they'll just run your picture through like the system and be like, oh, that's Bix. We had her in prison already. Grab her. Like, we all have social security numbers, right? And you have to carry
Yeah.
ID. That's sort of a law. You have to carry ID with you at all times, I think. I know I always carry my license on me just in my wallet, but if someone pulled you over, like a cop or something, and was like, show me your ID, if you don't have it, they could in theory like bring you in and like try to
Yeah.
figure out who you are, because you could be a criminal. So
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing where like the
And you're
galaxy will just do
operating a
that.
motor vehicle without a license.
Right,
So.
right. Yeah, and I wasn't even thinking getting pulled over by a cop, like literally just like standing there. But like the
Oh, okay.
idea is that like, right, you can't get in your car without a license. I'm sure it's the same thing. You can't fly a spaceship without a license.
Yeah.
So all those little things will just get weaponized more heavily, right? So if it's like, okay, oh, you're from Ferrix, oh, you're going to jail now for 20 years. Go build more Death Star. We need more pieces.
Yeah.
I think it'll be very that. Which is really sad, but I think that's exactly the consequences. And that's the great moral discussion, right? Like,
Yeah.
what they did on Ferrix, what did it achieve? Did it actually move the needle? They tried, but I think now there's going to be consequences that are way worse for everyone on that planet. Like, other people were just living their lives, and now all these other people are just going to be arrested or thrown in some like prison camp to like build shit for the Death Star because of this tiny little rebellion. It'll be like group punishment, right?
Yeah.
I see
really
that
hope it doesn't
happening.
get to that point.
I mean, like, this show knows how to torture us, right? Like, they've killed plenty of people that we like. I mean, that the fact that he couldn't swim, the fact that Andy Serkis couldn't swim. I mean, come on, Tony Gilroy, what are you doing to us? Like, that was heartbreaking. So yeah. Oh,
The other thing about
That's
him
hard.
going to Luthen, you're talking about having targets on his back, that
Mhm.
essentially eliminates one of those targets. If he
Yeah.
takes them in, right? It's either he's going to kill him
Yeah.
or he stops that element of having to look over his shoulder.
Right. And I also feel like the desperation that Cassian is going through right now, like he's literally got the people he cares about safe and free from
Right.
Fergs. He's turning himself into somebody he knew he was going to kill him if he didn't, run into him at some point.
Yeah.
So basically kind of surrendering, being like, look, I'm not going to ruin the rebellion. I want to help. So you can kill me or you could let me help you. So it doesn't give him a choice. And I think we'll start to see more major players in the rebellion now that Cassian has joined up with him.
And we should see Bail Organa next season. I kind of in the back of my head was like, he may pop up in the finale. I think I said it'd be him and Mon Mothma with Cassian and Luthen, and be very Revenge of the Sith deleted scene. I do think like that's still a possible thing in season 2. We just have to get Mon Mothma off of off world, basically. Like we got to get her out of Coruscant, because right now we've only seen her on Coruscant. We haven't even seen her on Chandrilla, which, by the way, we have to go to Chandrilla just for me. It's for no one else. I mentioned this already. I'm gonna like beat it like a dead horse, but like Mas Amedda surrenders the Empire to Mon Mothma on Chandrilla. Like we need to see this planet in live action. Like it's got to happen. Like even if God, maybe that's where the wedding will be for this poor child, who, by the way, seems like perfectly willing, which I don't love. I think it's the one plot point that like I'm still struggling with. Like I know that Mon Mothma has to make this like very weighty, heavy decision, but I don't agree with it. And I feel like there's so many things we could have done in this space, but it's like her literally like letting her child marry into a gangster family. I know that they're trying to soften that by making the daughter super into this conservative nonsense, but she's still a child. Like, and I realize that like age of consent is different everywhere, and plenty of people used to get married at 14, 15. I always joke that my grandfather had a job when he was like 12, right? But we have labor laws now to tell you that's not okay, and it doesn't mean that it's not okay now. It was also not okay then. We're just course correcting. So like I feel really icky about that whole thing, and it makes me like really have mixed feelings about like that decision. I was like, there could have been another way out of this. But like, and I get what they're doing, you know?
Yeah. And how smarmy that guy looked, like when like they came face to face. It was just like, oh,
the boy didn't bother me, right? Like
no, it was his father that like creeped me the hell out.
The mom had a weird look to her too, and there was something about her. She was just really tall and like really just like very proper looking in a way that just like came across that. It also made the child really look like a child, which I thought was smart. I was like, put the pants really tall to make the kid look younger.
She gave me like a Bride of Frankenstein vibe.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah, totally.
That's exactly. Now that you said it out loud,
without
Jeff.
the streaks. You know?
It was that tall hair. It was very
and big, like that statuesque kind of character with that. She was very stiff looking the whole time. It was very kind of
no emotion.
And overstarched clothes and
right. Not an ounce of love between the 6 of them. Like, let me tell you, like if any of them are capable of love, we don't know it. That's the kind of thing. It's very cold. It's very waspy, right? It's very like white Protestant, like cold Connecticut, wealthy. Like we all know that type. Like I also, and they're like very conservative and a little bit culty, which is actually not that. It's like there's a different group of people, but like it's just creepy in like the weirdest way, and yet she's like one of the heroes of our series, and I'm like, oh man, like damn Tony Gilroy is so good because he makes you like second guess everyone's actions at every turn. And there are even moments where like I told you we were cheering on Deidre. She was my favorite character. It was like get him. I was like, oh no, it went too far. So
Marge Simpson hair, yes, David, Marge Simpson hair, big time. I think as close to Marge Simpson as you get in real life.
Yeah. I'm curious to see like what's going to happen with this. I really think there'll be a wedding on Chandrilla in season 2, or at least like a path down that way. We have to go to Chandrilla. Okay, so season 2. What do we want to see? We want to see Bail Organa. I want to see Brea Organa. I love her. I thought she was great. The actress who brought her back to life. Like, I thought fantastic. Let's see her again. I want to go to Chandrilla. I also think we need to see Mas Amedda. I mean, they're very like. I don't need to see the Emperor. Like, I know he's there. He's like in the blood. Like this is the Empire. Like I don't need the Emperor. I don't need like Darth Sidious. Like I don't want to hear about lightsabers and dark side. Like we know that we have an evil, oppressive government. Mas Amedda is actually a better representative of that because he's just a bureaucrat, like with a stick, and he's a dick. Like that's the kind of thing that works, right? Like Yeah, like, and I don't even need to see Tarkin or Krennic. Like, I think having plenty of guys running around in white suits, like telling people what to do, serves the same exact purpose. I think we're perfectly fine there. Like that's all I really want. I want Bale because I think he adds, like, I think it's necessary in building the rebellion, and therefore I want Brea there as well. And I want to go to Chandrilla at some point. And I want to spend a lot of time on Yavin 4. Like I feel like Yavin, even though we got a good amount of Yavin in Rebels, it's still not enough. Like, I want more Yavin.
But in Rogue One too. So
Yeah.
yeah. I kind of want to see them bringing Mon Mothma in and her kind of using it as a base of operations and just yeah.
And how will she make that work? Like, does she relocate? I know she relocates there after she stops being a senator. We know that. But, like, is she on Yavin 4 before that? I assume she would help scout the location, because who the hell else would be doing it? Are we going to meet a Commander Sato? Like, who's the person who's finding Yavin, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My cat is trying to sneak in here.
oh, I know that my cats have been everywhere today.
Like, the other one just realized that my cat is in here. My mom's cat, Garfield, is this big chonky orange boy. He just realized that Ahsoka is in here and she has food and water and he wants it. So
there you go. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
they're very food driven, my kitties too. If there's food, they're there. They're just in your face about it.
yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else we wanted to cover in our full recap. I gotta say, like, I think this show subverted a lot of expectations in a way that, like, was all positive. You know, people have gotten very used to the action figure hour and the Easter eggs that are very heavy-handed, and the interconnectivity in a way that, like, feels like so blatant and so visual. Whereas this show is, I think, the most crisp in terms of its message, and the most complicated in terms of its character dissections. It's a very heavy adult dark show without being, like, gory or bloody or sexual, right? Like, it's just it's complicated. It's political. It's the political intrigue and the spy espionage that I think George always wanted to make. But then the prequels became like a live action cartoon. So, like, a
literal live action cartoon, because it became, the Clone Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
And we got it fleshed out a little better.
This feels a lot like what George was trying to tell us, that you have to rise up against fascism and authoritarianism, and it happens in various places with everyday people. There are no Jedi in the show. There's no Luke Skywalker. I haven't seen a lightsaber. I don't want to. And I think we're going to stay in that space. And I think it's a really interesting space to play in, because anything can happen.
Yeah.
There's no one who's going to come save the day with a force push.
Nope. None of that. I really think, we've had so many people being like, oh, it's just too much of the same Star Wars. And then they get something different, but it's still Star Wars. And it's still, like, the core message that George was trying, like you said, George was trying to get across. But they're like, oh, it's just not enough Star Wars. Like, it's plays it, like, too boring and too safe. It's like, no, this is everything you want. You want, like, the mystical side with the Jedi and the Sith, but you also want the Empire and the Rebellion, the human and the mystical. Yeah. It's just it's the perfect balance, I think.
I agree. I think,
and we've had the mystical for so long that, like, this is just like, oh, okay, this is.
And we're going to get that again with the Ahsoka show.
Yeah.
We're going to see some of it in Mando. Mando, I think, actually is really good balance between the bounty hunting and sort of everyday, as well as, like, the magic thrown in, right? Like, he didn't, Baby Yoda, he didn't even know what a Jedi was, right?
No.
Like, he was like, what are the Jedi? And they're like, oh yeah, it's these space wizards. Like, got it. Right on. So. And
nobody knows where to find a Jedi.
No, of course. Well, that's what's so funny too, because they didn't even know what species of alien Baby Yoda was, right? Grogu was, none of us really know. But they're like, oh, we know he's a Jedi. And it was like, a Jedi is almost treated like its own species. And then Ahsoka enters the scene. Like, so it starts giving you, and Luke is back, right? So now we're building toward the new trilogy and the magic and the Force and all of that. This show is nowhere near that. Like, and we know it's all leading to the Death Star and Luke blowing it up, but it doesn't matter. It takes, like, all of these everyday people to, like, build the structure that will eventually allow us even to have a fleet of pilots that, like, Luke could be Red 5. Like, where did Red 1 through 4 come from? Like, everyday people.
Yeah.
That's what the show is really about. And I think that's why it's working.
Agreed.
It's working for me. Like, it's filling a different need
Yeah.
because we've had so much of the other stuff for a while. And like, maybe if this was the first show out of the gate, people would be like, what is this? Like, I think now there were like 9 shows in or whatever. Like, this makes a lot of sense to have in the portfolio of Star Wars. Like, very
Right.
adult, very espionage heavy, very grounded.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited for season 2. I can't wait to
Yeah.
see. I want to see how he meets K2.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. K2 is going to be there. We know
so
that for a fact.
Excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
Alan
want to
Tudyk
make
said
any?
it's happening.
You want to make any big swings, big predictions?
Oh man. Well, as I said earlier, Deidre gets Cyril into ISB, but she has to babysit him.
Gotcha.
So
I like
that's
it.
one. Kino Loy is alive.
Oh, I like that. I'd like for him to come back.
Yes. And Cassian recruits him in the rebellion.
I would love that.
And Mon Mothma meets up with Saw.
Yeah, I'd like to see that on screen too. The two of them in a scene would be wonderful. Yeah. They're both so good.
Like they yell at each other through force projections. Like, yeah, we know that's good. I just want them
Mhm.
face to face. I want that tension. I want that standoff.
That.
Like that chess match. So
the two of them and Luthen is there and just egging them both on. Oh, fuck, that'd be amazing. So
it's
I
like
love that the
match.
best. Someone was like, remember when we used to argue about lightsaber fights and now it's like dinner at Mon Mothma's? Is there anything more terrifying? And it's so true. It's like, it's so like, and I will say this is maybe a little bit of like the PhD, like, you know, very heavy, like intellectual Star Wars, and maybe someone was like, oh, you're just looking down on everything else. I was like, we're not. I just love this too. I want it all. I want the good stuff. I want the cheesy stuff. I want the fun stuff. I want the heavy stuff. I want the serious stuff. Like, I want a little bit of everything. And I think this show knows its lane very, very well. Like, the tone is so well crafted. Like, there are moments of humor throughout, like a little bit here and there, but like this show really knows what it is in a way that Obi-Wan did not, that Boba Fett did not, even Mando season 2, which seemed to veer a lot. Like they kind of like what is this show? Like, this show knows what this show is, and if you don't like it, it's not for you, right? Like, this is a very weird thing on the menu, and it's not going to be for everyone. It's not a burger. It's not a burger. Like, it is a more complicated dish, and it definitely isn't for everyone, but it is very precise in what it is.
Right. And I think it's a little more it's an acquired taste, but I also think it having an end game, and the end game, we've already seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh, the stakes are too low because we already know what happens. Well, no, because you still feel like there are incredibly high stakes for everybody else. Like, you
for
know,
every
Cassie's
other character.
Story, but you don't know the rest of them, and you get so invested in these characters. It's like, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
Same
and
thing
how
with
you
the
get
Rebels
there.
characters.
Yeah.
Like, you see the stakes are so high, you see them involved in things, but you know, you want to see how they get there. Like, okay, we see the ghost show up and Rise of Skywalker and
Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. So we want to know how they're getting there. Like, we see the end. Now we want to know the path taken to get there. So
the how, the why, the who else is involved. We keep meeting a lot of new people. I mean, most of this cast is new.
I will lose my mind. Yeah. I will lose my mind if one of the Rebels crew, whether it be a simple character like Commander Sato or something, show up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it would just be so cool. So that's my last prediction. What do you think is going to happen?
I will, for your sake, put it out to the universe. I'm going to will it through the Force. I would like a Rebels character to pop in, and I think the most likely candidate is Harrison Dula. I think that makes the most sense. She's not really a part of the Ahsoka show the way that Sabine is. But if you're going to make the model for her to at least be in one episode of Ahsoka, like, you may as well bring that character into Andor for a hot second. Because
it could be a hologram, because she's part of the Fulcrum. Yeah. And speaking with Fulcrum, and she's kept her family out of it, and they're not definitely part of that side of the rebellion, but she's kind of like feeling it out. So she could be talking to them, trying to see what they're going to do.
I would love that, to see the conversation from their side, and then have to interact with Hera as she's part of the Ghost. I think that'd be super cool. And that would be something that, like, I need that once, not every week. I want to see it like it's the kind of thing where it's there, but it's not like harped upon. Where it's like, hey guys, member, like right. That's what I get nervous about in all Star Wars, right? So the fact that we met like, and this is why I can't keep anyone's names straight. We met like 45 new characters in this show over the course of the many episodes. They're all great, and they're all new, right? The only familiar characters are Cassian, Saw Gerrera, and Mon Mothma. And to a lesser extent, like who the hell even knew that Melshi? Like if you asked any random person, like, do you know who Melshi is? And they're like, what are you talking about? He's like the 15th build in Rogue One, right? Like he's one of Andor's like little brigade, but they pulled him into the show. That I would say almost qualifies as an Easter egg, where it's like, oh yeah, he's in Rogue One also. You didn't need to know that, by the way. Like,
I love that Stephen Melching is such a big like behind the scenes force on Rebels and in Star Wars, that they have Melch, the little you know, Hondo's little buddy, and now they have Melshi. It's really cool to see. I don't know if it has to be, because there's really no other reason for it, but there's a lot of like those little names are thrown out for people who
I think that for me, I would love to see someone from Rebels pop in, maybe Hera. I think that would make a lot of sense. Definitely want to see Bail. I really want to see a wedding on Chandrilla, but more so like I just want to be on Chandrilla like in some form, because I want to set up that with
the drama.
And maybe like drama. Steven was saying in the chat that like there's going to be a divide between Mon and her husband. So what if Mon Mothma actually goes back to Chandrilla because she needs to talk to some relatives about like maybe leaving her husband or something? There's any number of things where the husband's arrested or they find out about his gambling, right? There's any number of things.
Galactic
on the Halcyon. Look, if I see the Halcyon, I'll blow up the TV. I'll tell you that. So
if we see the Halcyon, they're buying us all trips on the Halcyon.
By then they will be.
Tony Gilroy will not allow that to happen. So I do think that like they're smart to not roll that into any major project. Keep it in. There's a book, and that's probably
in the Legos, the holiday special.
That's fine. Like that's fun and silly.
And in the Princess and the Scoundrel.
No, that's fine. A book and the Lego holiday special, that sounds great. That's the perfect place to integrate that. But like if you dare put it in like a major movie or something, come on, guys. Like that's a commercial. Like let's be serious. I do think though that seeing Chandrilla in live action is going to be critical if we want to do anything with the future new trilogy like 7, 8, 9, that it continues, like knowing how the Empire fell and where it really fell, like giving us that would be wonderful, especially as we're headed toward the Age of the New Republic with our next big like explosion event, right? Like with Mando and Ahsoka and Book of Boba Fett all coming together to form whatever this like Age of the New Republic, whatever that major conflict resolution is going to be in the next couple of years. Like we're headed toward that. Meanwhile, look at the time, and as usual, we don't end on time here, guys. You should know by now. I appreciate we had a really heavy like content stream with the comments this week. You guys had a lot of thoughts on Andor.
Thank you. It's so fun to read all.
I'm glad that you guys are all like enjoying the show and are pointing out the Rebels connections. We didn't do like an Easter egg list. There's actually like a really great Easter egg video, one from Screen Crush, another from Star Wars Explained, and then oh my god, New Rock Stars all have really
New Rock Stars had a great one. Screen
like
Crush.
The full like wrap up of the season, if you want to see the things you may have missed and the like true Easter eggs and all that kind of stuff. They're really good at that stuff. Highly recommend checking them out as far as wraparound content goes. Now let's tell you what's coming up on the VCN. So this Thursday, the watch along, you're not starting the Mando starts this week.
Yes.
Okay.
Jeff, take it away.
So we're starting the March to the Mandalorian season 3. And we're starting with season 1, episode 8, the final episode, or chapter 8, I should say. They didn't call them
chapter 8. Yep.
In the first season, which is a great episode. And then we're continuing the next 8 weeks with the following season, episodes 9 through 16, and then finishing up the few weeks that remain with 3 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett that heavily involved the Mandalorian, or as some of us call season 3.1, 2.9, whatever you want to call it.
2.5.
Exactly. So that will be Thursday nights for the next 3 months solid.
Awesome.
and yeah, it'll be fun to rewatch those episodes. And there's very high chance that some of those episodes will have possibly people that were involved in the show as guests on our little broadcasts. So yeah,
Ooh, that'd be fun.
keep an eye out for the, we're probably not going to say a lot about who's going to be there too far in advance, but the week of, you might see that, so and so was in this episode, and they're going to join us for the watch along, which is always friends of
That's
the
exciting.
VCN are plentiful and very willing to come and
Aw.
accommodate us, which is nice. But speaking of friends of the VCN, anybody who's in LA this weekend, myself included, will hopefully be hanging out at LA Comic Con. And if you're
Yes.
not, too bad on you. But if you are, we are planning a little meetup. Who knows how little it'll be, but hopefully a handful of people will show up inside the convention center near one of the concession stands in the main hall, off the main hall lobby, the South Hall, at Compass Cafe for 1 p.m. on Saturday. I'll be hanging out for at least an hour, 1 to 2, and we have a very special guest for that.
Wow.
So the plan is that Leilani Shu, who is Tika the Jawa from the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, will be there with us after she's done inside the hall. She's going to come out and join us and hang out, and so come by and say hi to Tika. She's very cool.
She gave Obi-Wan sass, so
definitely. She had some great interaction with Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I like her a lot. She was very nice at I think I met her at Bunta.
Yeah, she was at Bunta. She was one of the judges, and she was doing an autograph table with her daughter Ariel at in our autograph area. So
yes,
but she,
I still have
we mentioned the meetup, and she offered to come, so that's very cool. She wants to come and hang out with us. It is her birthday this week, so
happy birthday!
I'm sure she will accept any birthday gifts that happen to show up, at the meetup. But yeah, we're gonna hang out in the seating area outside of Compass Cafe on the upper level above, well, not upper level, but leveled sort of in the lobby in South Hall in LA Convention Center, if you've ever been there before. Just up the escalators. I posted some photos. There's a event post somewhere on the Facebook page, and another post or two from me and Spencer about it. So yeah, we'll be that announcement with about Leilani hasn't even been posted yet. So anybody who's
breaking
watching
news here on the Rebels Revisited.
Indeed. So anyways, that's about as much as I want to say. I will be hanging out on probably Saturday and Sunday at LA Comic Con. So if you see me, say hi. Definitely come by between 1 and 2 on Saturday at the Compass Cafe, South Hall, and hang out. Bring your virtual Cantina gear and
take photos.
Yeah,
get a selfie with Jeff.
Try to get a big photo. Everybody who ends up showing up.
You have to.
And so tomorrow is happy hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, tomorrow's happy hour. Thursday is first watch along of the March to Mando.
Yeah.
And Saturday I'll be at the LA Convention Center hanging out with Leilani.
And then Sunday is,
I can never remember which episode is which.
I think they just did a Jedi Archives.
Jedi Archives.
Yeah. So the next one's Unifying Force. Someone correct. Is Dave on? Tell us what show are you doing on Sunday, Dave? Tell us. We never plan this ahead of time. I always feel like it's like,
and don't forget to get your racers. Those are up for pre-order now.
Yes.
Celebration London racer. They are very cool, and they will be limited.
No FOMO.
And you will have FOMO if you do not get one. If you have any desire to get one, you need to order it.
Seriously, look at those photos. They're pretty spectacular.
I think they did a Unifying Force best of yesterday, and this week is the Jedi Archives.
Oh, I see it from Dave. Yep, Jedi Archives this Sunday.
Okay.
Great.
Cool. Thanks,
All right.
guys.
And then for us on Monday, we are still deciding, but we are probably going to do season 3, episodes 1 and 2, because the Mando countdown, Mandalorian starts in February. We have 2 episodes coming in February that will relate to that. We're going to eventually watch Trials of the Darksaber and Legacy of Mandalore, and then Heroes of Mandalore. And that's all like late in season 3 and early in season 4. So we're going to jump to season 3 because we want to go back to season 2 for Ahsoka and Bad Batch. So I think we're going to jump to season 3 and do Steps into Shadow next week, and like just go and start burning through season 3 with the intention of making it to Mando. That's the plan anyway. Oh, did we lose Ashley?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Oh no. That's okay. We're right at the end of the show, so this is a good time to sign off. But
Okay,
so everyone, tune in for Happy Hour tomorrow. VCN watch along on Thursday for the start of the march toward Mando season 3. Jedi Archives on Sunday, and then our Monday show next week will be season 3, episodes 1 and 2, Steps into Shadow, as we get ready to catch up to Mando. There she is. Okay.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I just had to plug in my laptop.
No worries.
Freaked out for a second.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, we lost you again.
Reassuring.
But that's everything. So I'm gonna let Ashley do our sign off since we are ready to go.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us this week. It was a phenomenal discussion. Enjoyed seeing you all in the chats. I had a lot to talk about, and we'll catch you on Monday. May the force be with you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.